Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Kung Fu. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, Evan lets Nikki know about the situation that Henry's found himself in, and it's a thing of like, well, I gotta help. And I thought it was so interesting when Ryan was so like, oh, well, have you heard anything from him? I'm like, why are you, like, I'd get it if Nikki was like this, but why are you so, but he's like, right, like, because Henry's basically become family to them. He's become a good friend. Also, like, right, if any of us was ever in danger, like, Henry would come running without hesitation. I think that's the thing of like, right, he's practically kind of family, you know, regardless of like the situation between him and Nikki, because he's been there to help them and support them so many times. So Ryan wants to do the same thing. It's like, right, when one of us is in danger, like, we have to come together to help, you know, no matter what the circumstances are. So Althea, obviously, she's in computer jail right now, so she can't access computers and stuff, like can't use technology for the next year. So that deal went through. So now it is a situation of it's up to Bo. So now Nikki has to go to her current boyfriend to help with the ex-boyfriend situation. It's like, cool. And she also had to kind of hack into an FBI agent, but Bo was like, oh, you were serious about that, but all right, went along with it. So but now it's a thing of like, well, we know who's after Henry, so they ended up going to Razor for help, which I love that. And he's like, nah, like, I'd love to help. He's like, yeah, but this guy you're going up against, he has no moral code like you and I do. He's like, fine, I will help you out. I'll put in the call for you to help you out if you can beat me. And if you don't, then I will have won the challenge, and I also will need you for a future job, which I'm like, ooh, that still could come into play. Even though he lost, he could still probably need something in the future, and Nikki would come to help. I hope we get more interactions between them, because I love that whole dynamic between them. He's like, hey, I've been training, I've been ready for a rematch and stuff like that. She's like, all right, you get to also say like, hey, you won, and my last win was a fluke. He's like, all right, let's do this. And I love partway through the fight, he was looking down like, oh, come on, man. She's like, I can't help it. Knocks him down. I was like, you're not the only one that's been training, so he had no choice but to help. But I hope we get to continue that dynamic, like, more than just that little bit. I hope we get to see more of them throughout the season and just get to see more interactions between. I like the little thing going, the, like, rivalry he's got with Nikki. I think that's actually pretty dope. Because Razor's a good enough dude that it's like, oh, I like that. I just think it's so cheeky, so. Nikki had to go to Bangkok to help out Henry. I think it does speak volumes that when she shows up, she does say this line of, well, when he's talking about everything, she's like, wow, I came here because I thought you were in danger, but this isn't over. Because she had the conversation with Bo. He's like, I have nothing to worry about, right? And she's like, of course not. It's like, we don't know what Nikki's past relationships have been in totality. We've known two big ones, her big relationship with Evan and her big relationship with Henry. Those are like the two major relationships we're aware of. Now she's one with Bo. And now it is this situation of, I think Nikki could probably feel it too. It's like, you know, it's hard being around your ex, especially because once again, it hasn't been that long. I mean, it also varies from person to person, like how long it takes you to get over your ex, but it's like, right, it's been 4 months and she's been worried about Henry. She's like tried contacting him, but he never got back to her. So it is this situation of like, if this was all said and done, if this was actually all over, would that have changed Nikki's mind? I don't think so, but the way she said it was almost like, oh, so this isn't over. Because it's like, okay, so it's going to be continuing. It like, if I never came to you, you would have never reached out to me. Because in his mind, it's like, right, I'm protecting you. I needed to do this on my own because you, Nikki, you've always known who you were. And to me, ever since I was a kid, I've always kind of been lost in never knowing who I was. And that especially got amplified when my dad was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you the truth about who you are. Now it's like, wait, I can find a definitive answer. He's always felt like there's a piece of himself he never got to know. And now it's like, oh, I could go out there, I can find the answers, I can finally be whole, I can finally be complete, and I can be worthy of you. And for, you know, in Nikki's mind, it's probably like, she didn't say it, but it's like obvious, like, no, you were always worthy, you were good enough, but like, you just couldn't kind of get outside of yourself, you know? Because you found answers to something that's been bothering you since you were little. But also, I think, like, Nikki also understands because she went on a journey of self-discovery too. But the difference is Nikki did, like, because Nikki knows firsthand, do not do things alone. It's a hard lesson she had to learn. And now it's like she luckily has a foundation of people around her. She has her family. She has Evan, all there to aid her in whatever she needs. So she knows, like, I'm not in this alone. I have my family and friends by my side. And, like, Henry couldn't rely on it because he knew, like, if I said anything to you, you would have come without hesitation. That's why I didn't contact you for these 4 months. I wanted to keep you away from all this. But now he's like, I do realize, like, the moment you showed up, it all went out the window. Like, you and me together, that's what should matter. But Nikki's like, it's already past that. She's like, we should move. We can't go backwards. We have to move on. And she's already moved on because he didn't give her much choice. And it's like, and that's the sad thing that, like, I guess, honestly, Henry didn't, I think on some level, maybe Henry thought when it was all said and done, I get the answers I want to, I could come back complete and then we could pick up where we left off. But it's like, you left her high and dry. You didn't respond to her. You didn't say anything to her. She had no choice but to move on. And that's on you. And Henry's got to live with that. And I think in the end of the day, he has to accept it. Whether that ends up continuing to be the case throughout I mean, who knows where the situation with Bo is going to turn out. Like, maybe Nikki's going to be like, I'm sorry, no matter what, I'm still in love with Henry and it's not fair to you. I mean, it's going to almost be like that Henry and Evan situation, because it was like, yeah, that was back in season 1. They were like, yeah, like, Nikki's going to have to make a choice. And obviously she ended up choosing Henry. So I think this might be a similar situation, but or maybe not. Who knows? She might just stay with Bo. Extenuating circumstances might make it so that Bo's not around. Who knows? But I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But on the Henry front, obviously the compass connects to something known as Genesis. So I did like a little bit of, I mean, and I do like that Henry's story has that kind of Indiana Jones element to it, kind of like, or kind of globe-trotting around the world kind of artifacts type of deal, right? So other than that, like, Henry ends up finding out this device is connected to something called Genesis and why it glows when he touches it. Well, Henry actually already knows about, was it the lodestone? Is like the piece that connects to this. His dad had it years ago and Henry like put it together and touched it. But all those years ago, the energy from the lodestone hit him. So he's technically he's basically, that was the compass keeper. He's the one tied to it. Basically, he was chosen all those years ago. And that's what his dad meant. That it turned out the reason why his father was looking for the compass wasn't just to find it to start Genesis. It was to destroy it because he knew Henry would be at the heart of this. It's very much like Nikki's mom. Nikki's mom kept her, as well as the rest of the family, in the dark about Nikki being from the warrior bloodline. So Henry's dad did the same thing in order to protect their children. You know, in Mei Li's case, it was like, right, so you wouldn't go down the same route as my sister. You know, I wanted to try and protect you. So it's a very similar thing of like, right, like, you're my one and only child. Like, of course I go do everything I could to protect you. So, and that, I think, also explains to Henry why his dad wasn't in his life. It's like, right, everything he did was for the purposes of trying to keep you safe. Probably ever since you got access to the lodestone, ever since the lodestone bestowed its power upon you, whenever you and the compass would be united, that's probably what really set that off for him. That's like, no, I need to keep Henry safe. So he wasn't around, wasn't the greatest father, but he couldn't tell Henry why, you know, so. And that, I think, plays a massive role in why he wasn't in Henry's life a lot, why they and Sally played out the way they did, so. But it seems like Genesis will basically turn Henry, like, by accessing the compass, like, Henry will become who he's supposed to be. Basically a compass for the magical points around the world, essentially. So it's like, right, if anyone ever got their hands on Henry, like, they'd have access to, like, all the magical, like, I guess it would almost be like he's like a almost magical, God, what was it? Kind of almost, well, a magic detector, which is interesting too, because if you do notice that the ending and closing of the show, the title card, it isn't just the necklace that Pei Ling had, it's also the lodestone device. So it's like, okay, so Henry and Pei Ling might be severely connected in some regards, because I think the fact is what happened with the lodestone with Henry, I think could be applied to Pei Ling and her circumstances this episode, which we'll get to in a second. But Henry ends up like absorbing all that energy, and who knows what the inner Zoro that's going to be. Like, obviously, now that he's become like the compass keeper fully, everyone's going to, like, the guy that's knocked out is like, oh, he's going to come after Henry. Like, there is no hiding from him anymore. And if the word gets out, everyone probably around the world will probably come looking for Henry too. So the question is, what happens now? Does Henry like take this opportunity? Does he disappear? Does he go back to San Francisco with Nikki to help look after? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see where things kind of go on that front. But some other interesting things. Let's focus on the paling of it all. Obviously, she's trying to get back in the ebb and flow of things, and she feels better now that she's destroyed the stone from the necklace. But the problem is, she hasn't really kind of gotten back used to her body yet. And she has this it is this interesting thing where Nikki is now the teacher. Like, the roles have now reversed. But Nikki's like, because her, it's like, okay, like, oh, kind of like, things have changed. And it's like, okay, Althea's kind of talked to you about my love life situation. I'm taking those steps forward. But it's like, maybe you should do the same thing too, Palin, because this isn't just our second chance. This is also your second chance at life to kind of live. And so she hangs out with Ryan in the episode, kind of gets some tours of San Francisco. And seeing her in regular attire actually kind of throws me for a loop for a second, especially in this episode, her wearing I Love SF shirt. I'm like, oh man, that's so crazy. I love that. Because obviously, like, anytime we've ever seen Pei-Ling, it's always been like in her Shaolin attire, which I don't know what the actual wording for that is. Because I know, like, obviously in karate, like, your attire is known as a gi. I don't think it's the same thing. Because karate's Japanese, or is it Chinese? I don't remember. Oh, God, I'm not well versed in, like, my different martial arts. Like, about what's where. Like, I know, like, Taekwondo, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken. I associate that as, like, a Korean martial arts, but maybe it's not. I can never remember if karate's Japanese or Chinese. Either way, I think it's Japanese, but I'm also thinking, like, it might be Chinese, because if it's Chinese, I was like, then is gi the appropriate word, not only for the karate attire, but also the Shaolin attire. But if it's Japanese, well, it makes sense. Maybe if karate's Japanese. Okay, so I finally had to, like, break down and look it up. Okay, I was right initially. Karate is Japanese, so, like, gi would be like, so there's probably like a Chinese equivalent with the Shaolin attire, but I think I was looking up, I think it was Kasaya or Kasara, something like that, is the name of, like, the robe that Shaolin, like, monks and stuff wear like that. Just a little quick Google search. I'm still probably, like, getting 100% of that wrong. I do apologize. Either way, that was just kind of, like, in my mind the entire time, because I was like, oh, I haven't seen her out of her Shaolin, and I was like, what's actually the word? What would actually be the word? And they say kind of robes, and I was like, okay, I think that would probably just be an attire, like, attire and robe would probably be the equivalent, will be fine enough, I guess, just to say. Either way, it's so interesting, because it's like, we've never seen, like, her having fun. I mean, because considering what her life was and the complications she had with her sister, it's like, it's nice to see her to be able to kind of cut loose and have fun. And I did like that she was able to help Ryan, because Ryan was kind of like the way he kind of snapped at Sebastian. I was like, oh, he's probably, I was like about to say, like, we don't know if he's had any extensive, well, I mean, prior to Sebastian, his last long-ish relationship was with Joe, and I'm like, but they never moved in together, right? So, like, this is the first time he's ever lived, but it was sudden. It's like, right, his place got trashed, it kind of had nowhere else to go, so it's like, yeah, it's kind of sudden, now I have such little space, and it's like, well, fine, I should, be more welcoming to him, and fine, he should win, but she's like, right, a relationship isn't about winning or losing, and it's like, Ryan's like, man, Nikki's right, you really are good. It's like, yeah, she is. She's got that sage wisdom. But what's also interesting, too, is the moment she had with Mei Li, and I thought that was a beautiful moment. She's like, I have to apologize. When Nikki came to me, I wanted to respect Nikki's wishes, but time and time again, I did want to reach out to you, and because I did reach out to you, because I knew as a mother you had to be worried about your daughter, and I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, thank you. You have nothing to be apologetic for, because Nikki was lost. And that was because of me. Like, I pushed her away and I couldn't give her what she needed at the time, but you did. And my daughter came back so much stronger. And that change in her helped change all of us. I mean, this family has grown so much tighter because of the lessons and teachings that Pei-Ling passed on to her. It's like, you made my daughter the powerful person and caring person that she is, But then we find out, sadly, that Zhao is still in there. Of course she is. But it's not like a front. Like, Pei Ling is still in there, too. But Pei Ling ends up running away when she was hurting Mei Li because Zhao had taken over and was squeezing her. It's like, oh, you're the warrior. You're the warrior's mother. So it's like, okay, so she's still in there. But maybe Henry's circumstances now could be the key to helping Pei Ling out of her circumstances, but also could be tied to everything with Jilon this episode, because obviously she meets up with she's there with Simon and the others who are running from the Harvester, and we see that they have a memoriam to people, and sadly Jilon's mom was up there. She was like one of the earlier ones to get killed, and you're like, damn, because she wanted an opportunity, because like the last time she saw her mom was in the season finale, and she wanted an opportunity to try and make things right, given that she has this chance. But it's like her mom found out about what she had done and what like ran away from her, and like, because it's like, oh, she was looking for her daughter, and it's like, no, she knew that Pei Ling had to be here, so that's who she was looking for. That's who I initially thought, like, oh, is that who you're looking for? You're looking for your sister? But it's like, no, most likely Jilon probably doesn't think she's like worthy enough to meet with her sister. Once again, it's just an interesting reverse of like, right, Pei Ling is in the world of the living while you're in the world of the dead. But it could be like those roles have to be reversed in order to make it so that Jilon can return to the world of the living and Pei Ling return to where she needs to be. I mean, that also depends on like, can you even restore that place? You know, like whatever world they're in, can they ever go back to where they were? All that's kind of destroyed and collapsed, so I don't know. But there is a good chance most of that probably got absorbed into that stone, so the stones got destroyed, but it's probably all inside of Pei Ling / Jilon, not inside of Pei Ling and Zhao now. So probably if they can probably destroy Zhao, or probably even that body, it'll probably restore all that energy back to the source and restore that world and bring all of those the guardian and warriors ancestries, like those warrior and guardian bloodlines, back to that world. So it might not even be till like the end of this season that we get like a Jilon and Pei Ling like face-to-face meeting for real, rather than just like, oh, her sister and her subconscious like earlier in season 2, or Zhao pretending to be Pei Ling type of thing, you know. So we'll have to wait and see. But for Jilon, it was all about redemption, which Simon kind of laughs. He's like, yeah, you killed a lot of people. And she's like, is this supposed to be a pep talk? He's like, everyone here knows about, you know, talk's already been about what you've done in the past. But the fact is that here, it doesn't matter. This isn't a world on living. You got to live the past in the past. You know, we're just all trying to survive here. And so to make up, to redeem herself and what she's done, Jilon is going to protect them. It's like, right, the Harvester can't kill me. He can hurt me, sure, but whether it's I'm really alive or whether my circumstances just are different in general, I can help you guys survive here, and I will kill the Harvester. So we'll see. Once again, I think it's probably going to be impactful who the Harvester is. I was like, I think it'd be interesting if it ended up being Russell Tan still in Kerwin's body, but I don't see that being the thing. The Harvester might be someone else entirely. I mean, hell, for all we know, that might actually be tied into how Jilon stays alive, because the Harvester could end up being like the Emperor or the Emperor's son, the Emperor she was trying to make immortal. That could actually be him, or like maybe his son that's stuck in this world, and they're bound together. So it's like, hey, you feed on the souls of this world, and that sustains me. And maybe the more people from the warrior and guardian bloodlines that get killed, the more Zhao is able to restore herself and completely take control of the body, or just become, you know, everything that Russell Tan wanted to become last season. Maybe she can become that now. But now the stone's been destroyed. But as we see with the load, what it did, it's been a part of Henry and made him what he is. Like, it's always been there. So maybe the same thing is like, yeah, I figured like destroying the stone was probably the point, but it's like, it's probably already past the point. Like, it's no longer necessary. Once again, it could be a fake, or even though it got destroyed, maybe it could still be pieced back together. Maybe it automatically will, because maybe it's the type of thing that can't actually be destroyed. A lot of speculation on my part. It's definitely going to be interesting to see ultimately where that ends up taking us. Some other side elements to the episode are Althea trying to find her place now that She doesn't have technology, but she ended up helping out with the kitchen and organizing. And she never thought much of like, yeah, like tech is all I was good at. And I thought like beyond that, I wouldn't be able to do anything. But she came outside of her comfort zone, which immediately Jin recognized, like the moment he was saying that, and he looks at Mei Li and she's smiling at him. He's like, all right, don't even say anything. She's like, what? I don't have to say anything because you already said it. And about him taking up, like, it's like, because he was like, right, politics, the moment you get into politics, it can change you. But Mei Li's like, or you could end up being the one to change things on that front. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how Jin handles that, how that all plays out going forward. But I'm really interested to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.